everyone. Okay, let's see if we remember. Yesterday, we were talking about what happens in ecosystems. Okay? And we came up with a whole long list of examples of things that happen in ecosystems. So let's see if we can remember some of those things today so that we can find out how ecosystems really change when we learn about some new words like succession, which you did some reading about. Okay, Joseph, tell me a couple things. We made a whole long list yesterday.
Earthquake,
Okay.
tsunamis,
Okay, earthquakes, tsunamis, another one. Nicole.
volcanoes,
Okay, Josh.
forest fires,
Lydia.
yeah,
Elodie.
tornadoes or floods.
Any man-made things, human actions that might happen? Ruth.
Pollution.
Pollution. I usually turn this front light off. Is that okay, Professor Meyer?
Oh, yeah,
Is that going to
absolutely.
come?
Nope.
Okay. Brian. Logging. All of these things can impact an ecosystem. If it impacts an ecosystem, it affects how the things that are living there can survive, correct? And sometimes they can't. Sometimes they have to do something in order to survive. That was another thing we talked about yesterday. Do you remember what they had to do? We'll come back to this one in just a second. Remember what they had to do in order to survive? Sometimes they have to be able to, Luke? Adapt to a new environment or move to a different environment, okay, in order to survive. Sometimes they can't do that. Sometimes they can't do that over an extended period of time and whole groups of animals die out. What do we call that? And the whole group of animals, whole species died out. That? Extinction, okay? What are some things? And this was causes of death, but it could even be extinction. What were some examples? We had pollution. What were other things that might cause an animal to die out? Nicole.
Global warming.
Another one. Peggy. Okay.
Habitat. Remember habitat?
Well, you can either have a long word or a short word. Poaching is a different one. Let's get back to that habitat one.
Habitat destruction.
Habitat destruction or habitat loss, both of which we're going to talk about today. Okay? All of these things might cause an animal to die out. This last image we had was of something else. This is kind of sometimes the way we can tell what is happening in an ecosystem. We can get a cross-section through years and years of an ecosystem. And this tree cross-section told us a few things about this life in this ecosystem. Tell us a few things we learned from that tree section. Bryant. How old it was. So that this tree has been there for so many years. Remember that when we get to the very end of our lesson today, because that's going to make a difference, okay, if we get to that point. Elodie.
That there was a forest fire there previously.
There had been a forest fire, and it actually must have survived the forest fire, so it couldn't have been totally catastrophic, but there was definitely a fire, okay?
Tell how many years it was since.
How could you tell how many years since the fire?
Since the burn.
You could count the years since the burn, right? Okay. How else could we tell something from that cross section? Maybe Josh?
Rainy seasons.
Rainy season. How can we know something about rainy seasons? I don't think the wet on the inside would tell us if we had a rainy season. The wet on the inside would, if you cut the tree right then, would tell us that the xylem had been doing its job. Josh?
The lines are farther apart.
The further apart lines, right. So the ones that are really far apart, that told us that growing season was a really healthy growing season for that tree, and some are really, really close together. I was telling you about those drunken trees that you find up in the taiga, up in Alaska and Canada, and there's those rings are like right on top of each other, because they hardly grow. Okay? Good information that you remembered. Okay, we'll do that one. Let's see if we can do this one. Come on, quickly rearrange these three terms. We must know these three terms. Come on up, Lily. I'm guessing these three terms are terms that you already know. Do you remember from our video yesterday any of the animals that were either endangered or extinct? Ruthie. The Galapagos turtle, that big, huge, that type of turtle, okay. Luke, come on, are they all fixed?
Yeah.
Yes, they're all fixed. Okay, so threatened, They're getting lower in number. They could become even more endangered. Once they're more endangered, it has the potential to become extinct. And then eventually they could become extinct, meaning we will not have them anymore on this earth. Sometimes they find a species that they had called extinct, right? Because it was living on this island or in that remote place. But sadly, most times we don't. But reality tells us that actually we lose a lot more species than we're even aware we had. I mean, do you really know all the kinds of bugs that live in your backyard? If all of a sudden one kind of bug wasn't in your backyard, would you notice it? No. So it's the little tiny things like that, whether they can plant or animal, we're losing species we just don't even know we're losing them. Okay. Habitat loss. You read about this. Who can tell me what you read about for today? What did this refer to? Evan.
If there's habitat loss, when they cut down trees and stuff living in the trees like a bird, and all the trees are destroyed, the bird has nowhere to live.
And that's bringing it a lot closer to home, isn't it? Because we can just cut down a tree in our yard and we have destroyed the home for birds and squirrels and whatever else was living in just that tree. But we're losing trees and things faster than just one tree at a time. When we talk habitat loss, what bigger than that? What are we talking about? Josh.
Like deforestation and taking over.
The big word here might be deforestation. If you didn't write these down from taking notes on your reading, you can add them in now. What's another big term we might have used for this one? That. Okay, we're going to get into succession today. That's not what we're referring to here yet. Okay, I need to tell you where I'm going this weekend. I'm going to the cities. I love going up to the cities. There's so many things to do up there. I can go shopping all day and go to a different spot, right? It's great. But does anybody know what the problem with the cities is? They're building and building and building and building, right? Do we know what that's called?
Isn't that like,
Urban expansion. True. Urban sprawl. Okay? Urban refers to any city. Sprawl refers to that it's spreading out. Is New Ulm having urban sprawl?
yeah.
Guys, if you go up on Highland Avenue, have you been on that Highland Avenue? Did you know that 8 years ago, I don't know if it was even 8 years ago, that Highland Avenue wasn't there like that? Menards wasn't there? Walmart wasn't there? Maybe New High School won't be there? I mean, that's all urban sprawl. We are spreading out. And guess what? All that space that is there now, it's really good farmland. There's animals living on it. They are losing their habitat. That's their homes, right? And it's not just homes for human beings, it's homes for animals. And when they lose their homes, they have to relocate. They have to adapt to new environment. Or like the deer in New Ulm do, they just eat from us, right? Or try to. But the fact is, deforestation and urban sprawl is a huge, huge issue for the whole world. How many of you have either of these issues in your biome project? And how many put that in there as a slide or something, correct? Because you were supposed to include an ecological issue. So make sure you have those things. Urban sprawl is a big problem. Deforestation, cutting down the forest. Where's that happening a lot right now? Anybody know? Alaska's forests don't grow fast enough to have to do that to it. The Amazon. Now, lest we think those people in Brazil are terrible, horrible people, do you know who else did it? Look, we did. Our ancestors, our people that lived here first, they cut them all down and made this cropland, right? Yeah, they did all these parts. Which of the biomes has the problem? And we already just asked that. Do you have, when you have your biome, does anybody have this happening in the tundra? No, not very often. Okay, tundra is pretty cold. A lot of people don't want to live there. It's not like a
and sterile. This virgin landmass offered an amazing opportunity. Watching life take hold of Surtsey is the closest humans had come to watching how life would have emerged on Earth. The first bacteria were found as soon as the rocks were cool enough for them to survive. By 1970, 3 years after the last eruption, most of the island was covered in flora. There are now over 69 species of plants on the island, with between 1 and 5 new ones arriving every year. Surtsey offers the perfect microcosm of how the world came into being. Molten rock cooling, hardening into islands, continents, and these colonized by an even greater profusion of life. But everything in the world is in constant flux. Nothing stays the same for long. Each year, the pounding waves of the North Atlantic erode a little more of the island back into the ocean. By 2100, all trace of Surtsey will have disappeared beneath the waves. And given the relentless battering of rain, wind, and tide, this is what would happen to every continent on the planet. It's only volcanic eruptions like these that keep rebuilding the Earth's surface. During the 90 minutes of our circumnavigation, there will be 20 volcanoes erupting somewhere around the world.
Okay, so the island of Surtsey started how? Great.
Because of a volcano.
Okay, so there had not been any land there before, right? Did you know that's how all the Hawaiian islands started? That was all volcanic action. All the Aleutian Islands, all the ones off, lots of islands actually, all the ones off of Alaska up here, this cool long string of islands, that's all from volcanic action, okay? So land can start from volcanic action, right? And actually it's pretty fertile land because that land started growing things. What were some of the first things that grew on Surtsey? Xander.
I was gonna ask, where was the volcano if it started the land?
Where was the volcano if it started the land? Okay, here's the bottom of the ocean. And here's the top of the water. Chances are there were volcanoes under the ground,
Okay.
and they kept getting higher and higher. And eventually it got high enough that it could go up on top of itself, okay? Because if you were to study the lay of the land underneath the water, you're going to find that it has mountains and hills and volcanic action just like the above the water level, okay?
The island of Surtsey had this, can't remember the name, but some sort of grass that grew everywhere. Then birds started coming and life started.
And this is an island that is quite a ways away from other land. It's not like it just had to come across, you know, from here to there. It had to get there miles and miles and miles across the North Atlantic, cold, nasty weather. But things started, 1 to 5 new plant things a year. And they've kept track of this. And so this island has been a very scientifically studied island. Now, at the end I said, though, it has a problem. What's the problem with this island? Joseph?
By like 2100, the whole Earth will be covered in water.
Well, that's not quite what you said. The year is right, 2100, but what, 2100, something will be covered with water, but not the whole Earth.
Well, the island.
The island itself. What's going to happen to that island? What is happening to that island? Ruth?
The waves are in the island back under.
What's that called? The waves?
Erosion.
Erosion. It's eroding away. Does that happen around here? Farmers' fields are eroding all. You know, the wind blows, takes that good crop, the soil, it gets down to the Minnesota River, carries it all the way eventually down to Louisiana, right? It's happening all over the place. And that's what they were trying to say. Unless we keep getting new volcanic action to bring ground from underneath, the world will get smaller and smaller. Okay. We've had that. Okay, the final stage is on page 201, and we already looked at that. I said like Flandreau Park, that's considered a climax community. A community where we're going to have big oak trees, we're going to have big maple trees. The hardwood trees are part of a climax community. After they start taking over, then they will stay there and keep living for a very long time. The sequoias and the redwoods, or some of the big huge trees where you see pictures of these big huge trees, that's a climax community. What can kill a climax community? What can do it? Fruit?
Forest fires.
A forest fire. What else? Anybody have something else that can do it? Right? Acid rain could damage it, yeah. Tornadoes. Urban sprawl. Deforestation. All of these things come around again, don't they? So we have got to be very careful with how we use the land and the things that are growing on it, okay? So, one last question, and I want you to put this in your notes, please. Think about the things we have spoken about in the last 2 days. Ecosystems, all those challenges to ecosystems, and now today, the process of succession based on new life growing. Tell me something that you know you're putting in your biome project connected to this, because it was asking for something. So write down something, and if you don't have it in your biome project, make sure it's there by Wednesday when your project is due. Something from what we've learned the last 2 days should be in your project. Have something in your project?
Well, I'm trying to add
So what region are you doing?
the
Oh, yeah, and they have lots of problems. So make sure deforestation gets in there, right?
I'm still trying to work on it to get more of the stuff in it that we were talking about.
Put it in there. Okay, I will tell you, we do not have class next week Monday because you don't have school next week Monday. This project is due on Wednesday. I know you guys are also writing your research papers based on this project. How's that going? Was it fun to research all this stuff? Are you finding some things when you're researching for your research paper to keep adding into your other project? Good. Any questions?
I put everything down. I don't feel like where I got my stuff down, but I didn't like fill it up. You know, I have everything down.
See what chapter we are, Julia?
24.
23.
That was me.
So we are on 24. Almost there. They're pretty short chapters after that, so we have 30 pages. We're going to chat for a little bit though, before we get going on this. I don't know, it's probably been almost 20 chapters since we have talked about this, so I'm not going to go through absolutely everything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a few questions that I want you to discuss with your partner. And then I'll just take a few of those answers that you came up with in class. First of all, what are you thinking about this book? Are you enjoying it? There's a lot of people that, when asked what their favorite book is, Island of the Blue Dolphins comes up a lot. Is that going to come up for you? Xander, what do you think of the book?
Pretty good. I would say it's my favorite though.
Yeah? What have you liked about it?
Well, when they were having a war, when a lot of their people fell on the beach,
Yeah.
and when Rama got killed by the dogs.
So you have liked the action?
Yeah.
Have you had any feelings towards it? I mean, did you feel bad when Ramo got killed by the dogs? Or were you just like, yes, blood?
Kind of, but
Yeah. Okay. There's some other questions I'll ask about that, but I'll have you talk about that with your partner. Bryant, what have you thought? You like it?
Yeah.
Okay. What have you liked about it?
That she
Whatever, octopus, whatever.
What did they call it, or what did she call it? The devilfish. Did you, when you first heard of the devilfish, did you think of the octopus? What did you think of? Okay. I think there was a book you read last year that talked about a devilfish. Maybe you didn't get to that one last year. Was it the Black Pearl? Did you read that one last year? The Black Pearl? What have you thought of with devilfish? A lot of times, yeah.
Like a big black fish with just lots of whiskers like a catfish.
Okay.
That's what.
Okay.
So I guess when they were describing it, I thought it was like, I was picturing this little tiny fish. I thought it said it had like huge human arms. I was just picturing a tiny fish with big arms.
Okay. Okay. Sometimes they might depict like a devil ray or a stingray as a devilfish. I think that's what was in the Black Pearl when they talked about that.
When I think about the devilfish, I think about big fat fish. Big arms, like ours, but something weird.
This is a kind of a discussion question I'll ask you here now. If you were Karana and you saw the devilfish or the octopus, the large octopus, would you even want to approach it? Why not? Why not, Nicole? Yeah, that's what my thought. I would want to stay away from it because it kind of, makes the hair on your neck stand up, and it gives you that like fingernail on the chalkboard kind of a feeling, or like snakes. If you're bothered by snakes, like I am, to me, that's like an animal would eat snakes. A little gross to me. I would just try to stay away from it, probably. Okay, Luke?
I was thinking of like a black eel.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, in my mind, I remember reading this for the first time, is that you never think of eels. Ruthie? Oh, what? You did? Okay. Ruthie, what have you thought about this book? Pretty good? Are there parts you don't like? Okay, so you're kind of more emotional part. You don't like some of the action is not good because you actually feel bad for the characters sometimes. Okay. How many of you feel emotionally attached to books sometimes, or to characters when you read them? That's the majority. I do too. I mean, that's why I like reading some of these books, because you get to enter somebody else's story. And, you get to be a part of their lives, and when something bad happens to them, you kind of feel that emotion that maybe they might be feeling. Are you surprised sometimes about how they come back from these, like how Karana has come back from the situations that have happened to her? We'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, with your partner, is there anyone that's not going to have one? Who did you go with last time? Okay. I'll have you do that. So why don't you just skip over to Isaac's desk over here. And do you have one, Lily? Your partner, you're over there. Ruth, you have one? Okay, everybody else is set. Okay. First question I want you to talk about is, why did Karana burn her village and find a new home? So when her tribe left, was gone or killed, and she was all by herself. So even with Ramo gone, she's all by herself. Why did she decide to do that? I want you to talk about it with your Well, there isn't necessarily an answer that right distinction. So what she did, she didn't just go back to her village and live in the houses that were already made. She farmed them and decided to live in her own area.
Oh, she burned it on.
All right, 10 seconds. Okay, come back to me. Some of the answers that you came up with. Would you like to share some of those? Elodie?
She didn't want to remember like what happened to her. So she would get like that.
Okay, so it's to get rid of some of the memories. Okay. Maggie?
So if the leaves came back and you wanted to tell you, and you would just think that on the, I can't remember what the English tribe is called, but you should think that all the people.
Okay. Okay.
She didn't want the emotionally, and I think she didn't want herself to steal their stuff and like take their stuff and use it on her own house. She didn't want the memories.
Okay. Do you remember some eerie moments when she was back at the village? Can you remember some of the ways that she described that? Lydia?
Sometimes the fog was like reminded her of kind of like when she sleeps with like dead people or the people that are gone.
That kind of painted a nice picture in your mind a little bit, or a creepy picture. Made you think of Halloween. Kind of, you imagine like these huts or houses out there, and fog entering into them. And then, you know, when you're by yourself, you've been by yourself before, like in your own house or in the dark by yourself, and your mind starts to take over. Can you imagine being on an entire island by yourself with all these houses around? You probably even think of some of the video games maybe you played in the past, where it's like this eerie ghost town that you're walking through, and there's you know, fog or smoke or something through everything, and you're worried what's going to come out of there. You know, she starts thinking about ghosts, spirits. The fog starts looking like shapes of people maybe in there. So a little bit of creepiness, get rid of the memories.